Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Bhavna.
How are we?
Great. Oh, happy hump day, everyone.
Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, happy Wednesday. I'm good, yeah.
That's
What
lovely.
am I doing? Well, I've been kind of taking it easy. I've been working, but taking it easy at work. Enjoying
Nice.
this beautiful weather we've been having.
We are blessed we think we're blessed with about 9 months of sun, aren't we? Which is pretty good.
Most of the years, yeah, but this year's been a bit, or last year was a bit strange.
Touch and go.
Yeah, a bit touch and go, a lot of rain. It's El Nino, isn't it?
So
Nino.
how have you been enjoying the sun?
Oh, I just like to be out more, out and about more. Did I go to the beach? No. Oh, I took Hendy to this other dog park that all the dog owners rave about because it's got a little doggy beach.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Does
yeah,
Hendy
so
actually go in the water though?
well, he won't unless I do, and I didn't feel like it. But he'll just run up and down the shore, so he
Yeah.
just gets his like feet wet. But yeah, there's loads of dogs and it's running up and down, loving it, loved it. So that was really fun. It was really nice to watch him play. So I took him and the friend's dog down there. So that was nice. I'll
Good.
have to go back there because it's not that far away from where I live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way of
Mm.
also kind of like obviously meeting other dog owners. Dog.
Yes, yes. Meet quite a few dog owners around here all the time.
Yeah.
And then what else have I been doing? Catching up with friends after the Christmas break and everybody's back and it'd be
So
good to
again,
see Joe on Monday.
oh yes, that's right. Yes, I haven't
Mm.
seen you in a number of years. So
Yeah. So organizing that. Yeah. And just starting up the year with goals for 2023.
January is all about goal setting, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. That's how I've spent my last week. I've been back at the gym. I re-signed back with the gym, and I also got back into my yoga practice. So yeah, and I've been keeping to my schedule, and hopefully that will continue through the rest of January. We will see. I think it's around about the I think it's 17th of January where a lot of people end up releasing or stepping away from their goals, their New Year's resolutions. So as long as I can get through January and keep to my fitness schedule, then hopefully there'll be more chance of me continuing it on for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually planning to go back to some form of formal exercise again. We'll see. Look into a few options. I want to do what you're doing, like reformer.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's really good and I haven't really done it before. So I really want to do that. I'm going to try that. That's my 2023 exercise. I'm trying to find a place. There's so many places around here. There's loads, would be great, but of varying costs. So I just need to have a look and do a bit of research.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking into reformer Pilates because I don't know if you like myself, but I've tried Pilates for many times over and over, and it's the floor pelvic exercises which are really not very appealing. I don't enjoy them. I find the repetition quite boring. And then when I discovered reformer Pilates, that's where you're kind of on the machine. That changed my whole outlook
Yeah.
on Pilates. So
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm that flag and an advocate.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I've been to an intro session. It's like it's in one of the places. It's quite funny. It's a bit like a disco. It's like mirrored walls. All walls are mirrored.
Yeah.
Dark, lights, that kind of, and then the boom, boom, boom music. It's like going to one of those spin classes, but
Right.
it's Pilates. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. And what about you? What have you been doing?
Yeah, that's basically what I have been doing. It's getting back into my fitness regime.
Mm.
So obviously balancing it out with work commitments.
Mm.
But it's a chance to, I suppose, start the year getting the endorphins going, goal setting. One of my goals is basically to get back into shape. And yeah, it's also a great place to also meet like-minded people, which is fantastic. So, and also I love the yoga community that I'm with. Yeah, I really like being around them. So that's good.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Right. All right. Well, um, we will get started with the first story.
Yeah, let's kick off.
So this story is a bit of like a 2022 in review story from, I'm reading it from ABC News, about women's rights, and by the journalist Annika Burgess. So she's saying the headline of the story is many women's rights were taken away in 2022, but global feminist solidarity is on the rise, which is fantastic. Because, and the reason I think it's fantastic is because too often I've seen in the past women against women as well, not supporting these. I found women, and this is when I said remind me to say this point later, some women, not all women, with their head in the sand, thinking there's not a problem, or thinking, or being part of the problem and not realizing it. But I'll come back to that. So that's the title. And she says, looking back at 2022, rights groups, experts, advocates agree that it's not a very bright picture for many women around the world. Simone Clark, chief executive of UN Women Australia, told the ABC that we've had some real challenges and a lot of indicators were actually going backwards, both globally and in Australia. And I can't tell you how many times I said that last year. I feel like we're going backwards. I said that so many times. In terms of big events and big challenges, it's certainly been a year of those. 2022 was a year of those. And actually, the picture immediately after that comment shows a woman holding a ponytail of hair in her hands. And she's a protester that's cut off her hair in solidarity with women in Iran. That's quite a striking picture. Yeah.
So this woman has cut off her ponytail.
And it's quite long. It's like,
right,
okay, cut off like this amount of hair, like, I don't know, this amount
and
of
what's
hair.
that in so what's her message by cutting off her hair?
Well, it's in the protest about women in Iran. So it's solidarity. I don't know what a message is. That's just the picture that it shows. So I guess you make up your own message.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit confused about why she's cutting off her hair and how that relates to the solidarity of women in Iran. I'm not too sure about how that relates.
Like I say, speaks to you how it speaks to you. For me, that's a very feminine, generally, if you're being stereotyping, that's a very feminine thing. It's like burning your bras to me. Yeah, it's a kind of similar kind of thing.
So I suppose in this instance,
it's like a rebellion against.
Ponytail is representing femininity.
Yeah, and who owns it, basically. Okay. That's my interpretation. Like I say, everybody can interpret that however they want, however it speaks to them. And in March, on the International Women's Day, Amnesty International released a statement warning that events in 2021 and in the early months of 2022 had conspired to crush the rights and dignity of millions of women and girls. And then it goes on to talk about the Taliban's further crackdowns on the rights of women in Afghanistan. And the things, I mean, you don't really hear so much about it. Obviously, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan again, we heard a lot about it on the news. And then my heart goes out to the women and girls in that country, because now they're not allowed to go to school above the age of, I think it's year 6, it says in here. They've got strict Islamic or Sharia law that's been imposed. Yeah, girls have been banned from middle school. Women are barred from attending universities or for working for non-government organisations. So 6th grade, I don't know what 6th grade, I don't know if that's year 6 or whatever that is. I guess that's, I do know what that is. That's like the end of primary school for us in the UK.
School.
So no secondary education, basically.
Yeah. It just goes to show just how fortunate we are, to have these opportunities and not have these challenges where, in Afghanistan, this is the norm, where as you approach the end of your primary school, you're basically, that's the end of your educational life.
Yeah. And women having to wear head-to-toe clothing in public. Women are banned from gyms and parks. These are things I didn't know.
We don't know whether or not if there's, I think there's some also laws whereby, I mean, in Afghanistan, where you have to be accompanied if you're a female. If you're going to a park or if you're going to a public place, you always have to be accompanied by a male, and obviously covered.
So that's basically, you know, what's going on in Afghanistan. I mean, I would like to think I could leave. I mean, probably won't let you leave now, but at the time, I would have gotten my ass out of there if I had the option. So,
yeah, I mean, a lot of individuals, a lot of our community, you know, it's easy for us to say, what would we do if we were in that situation? But a lot of it's like you're ingrained with that belief. You're ingrained with these laws. A lot of the female girls, a lot of the girls there, they've grown up around this that's their expectation. So it's a difficult one. It's not. I'm not saying that it's not advocating it by any means. But I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes.
Yeah, well, it can't
without that lens of what I've already been grown. What my
I know what you're saying, but we can't put ourselves in their shoes. And the fact is, they don't have a choice. It's not like you can choose to leave, to stop school at this age, because we prefer you didn't. Just no choice whatsoever. But I guess by the same side, you don't really have a choice about going to school either. In the UK or the US, whether you have to go to school, right? It's not really a choice. But I guess you can leave at 16. But also, you've got to consider as well that they had 30 years of rights before this has happened. So there would have been people and mothers, that finished school or gone to uni or have careers that live there and have to now deal with this.
Yeah.
As well. So already having that freedom, and that freedom's been taken away. Now the next story is highlighting Iranian women.
Right.
And what's happening to them.
That would be an interesting find. Is that okay? Well, if the Taliban are stopping young girls being given the opportunity to have a full education, what's the expectancy? Is it a case of that they stay in the home, become homemakers, go into early marriages, have children? Is that the assumed expectancy?
Yeah, that is generally the known path and life. So now it moves on to talk about Iranian women in the spotlight. And it talks about, I don't know how to say his name, Nos Hosseini. Although it's taken 43 years, Nos Hosseini has been overwhelmed by the scale of uprising and international attention Iranian women's rights have gained in recent months. It talks about the first known execution in relation to anti-government protests. They hanged a man for waging war against God. So now that's obviously setting a fear tactic to dissuade people from protesting. It's wonderful that the community all across the world is showing a strong level of support for the people movement for regime change in a way that they haven't before. Ms. Hosseini, a spokesperson for the Iranian Women's Association, so that's who that person is. That's what she said. And she says, I think because it's been ongoing and it's growing from strength to strength, because protests erupted in September last year after 22-year-old Masha Amini died in the custody of morality police, who arrested her for inappropriate attire. And that's what really triggered. I mean, that's just a trigger. It's not like it all of a sudden was a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. And then Nos Hosseini, this woman, is saying that Iran is like a prison for women. And it's interesting to compare it to the Taliban. I think the Taliban seems to be the most extreme, like what's happening in Afghanistan. And Iran is extreme, but not as bad, if you can even say that. They allow the women to be educated. Demonstrations are spread to all corners of the globe.
Yeah, different degrees.
Yeah, different degrees, exactly. With women from the streets of Paris to the beaches of Bondi cutting off their hair in solidarity.
Well, I live in Bondi Beach, and I haven't seen any.
You've got a lot of hair there, Bhavna.
I don't see many women cutting off their hair, and unless to be fair, it's Bondi Beach, so unless cutting off your hair was part of an Instagram craze, I don't think it would happen in with women in Bondi Beach. Or
well, apparently it happened. Lucy Kenny, associate campaigner at Amnesty International Australia, said Iran had shown that more people are finding their voice and speaking out against what they will and won't tolerate. The positive in all of this is that we've seen people standing up fighting, which has really highlighted the importance of people power and also the right to protest in changing repression.
yes, fantastic. That's what we need a lot of. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And it says, I think we're seeing a growth in strength between women, which is good. So like I said, this is lowlights, I would say, of 2022. And then it talks about the US winds back reproductive rights with the Supreme Court ruling ending a constitutional right to abortion after nearly 50 years. So that Roe versus Wade, we heard about that. Yeah. So several states enacted the law restricting or banning abortion completely. So it's now considered illegal at all stages of pregnancy, with some exceptions, in 13 of the 50 states in America, isn't there?
52 states.
52. So 13 of the 52 states banned it.
I think that was one of the stories, yes, when you talk about the lowlights of last year of gender equality. That's one of the stories that would have stood out for me, definitely. Because I remember seeing watching a news article, and I think I saw it on a post, and they had a depiction of a scene from Handmaid's Tale. And then they showed another piece of footage, and that other piece was from the States, from the story. And they basically put it together, and I thought, oh, goodness me. So that's the way they put it.
That's how I see the world. Like, Handmaid's Tale, scary.
It was very scary when I saw that. Yeah.
And I actually couldn't watch Handmaid's Tale. I started watching it with Neil. I watched maybe 3 or 4 episodes of season 1 with her, and I was like, I can't watch this. It's just too disturbing for me to continue to watch this. I can't watch it. So I'd stop watching it. But
you haven't got through season 1 yet.
I just can't watch it.
So I think there's about 4 or maybe even 5 seasons.
I know there's loads of seasons now.
Season 1 I was hooked, because you're absolutely right. It's a very powerful story. And Margaret Atwood is it's from her, it's written by Margaret Atwood. She's a very powerful writer, and so that was hooked in season 1. Season 2 it got gritty, because you basically bought into the main character's journey, and by season 3 it was getting so many, it was so extreme. And then, just like yourself, I started finding it a little bit uncomfortable, and so I think I dropped halfway through season 3. I've seen the trailers for season 4. I'd like to revisit it, but unlike yourself, Tracy, I think I kept with it, and then it started getting very uncomfortable for me. And so to see it then on the news, to play out on the news as a comparison story about what's happening in the US, was quite shocking.
Yeah, and it is comparison. And what I heard about that book, because apparently it's a book and it's been around, and some schools make them read, like it's read at some schools, part of your curriculum. We never read. Did you read that? I never read that.
No, but I did actually. I came across Margaret Atwood. Her writing is around females and empowerment,
right?
And the challenges that they go through. So I've been familiar with Margaret Atwood's work.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't realize that, and also what I'd heard, I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard, is that all the things she describes in her stories, although the stories have actually happened to women in history. So all the situations, have happened to women in history. So I was like, oh, lovely. So I can't watch it. I can't watch anything like that, and anything about slavery that's fictional and or children being abused. I can't watch any of those kind of programs.
It's because you get quite emotional. It's that emotional connection, isn't it?
It's just, I just can't watch it. I just feel horrendous, and I don't want to feel that way, so I don't watch it. Anyway.
That's understandable. That's quite understandable, yeah.
1.2 billion women and girls of reproductive age live in countries and areas with some restrictions on access to safe abortion, according to UN Women. And the thing is, it goes underground, we know that, before it was legal. And so, and that's terrible.
I suppose
However,
that's also a comparison with The Handmaid's Tale, is that it's a story of I suppose, an underground utopia, as it were. And so, and these types of stories that you're reading and you're highlighting, a lot of them are underground stories. So that's where our similarity is again.
but apparently, I didn't know this, there are also major steps forward on sexual and reproductive rights in other parts of the world. So in Latin America, Colombia decriminalized abortion during the first 24 weeks of pregnancy, following a 2021 rulings in Mexico and Argentina that improved access to abortion. India made a landmark move and ruled that a woman's lack of marital status cannot deny her the choice to abort a pregnancy at any time up to 24 weeks. And Finland passed reforms that eased the strictest abortion laws in the Nordic region. And Spain, in December, just gone, passed a pioneering sexual and reproductive health law that allows girls aged 16 and 17 to undergo abortions without parental consent. Oh, that's interesting. It's also became the first European country to offer state-funded paid leave for women who suffer from painful periods. And we were just talking about that.
Okay, yes, that's right. Yeah, something that the UK are going through, or have been going through in the last few weeks.
So that's great. Paid leave for women suffering painful periods. Oh, great. There'll be somebody that's not happy with that. But great.
You actually use it though, that's the thing.
Worldwide increase in gender violence. Initial reports indicate that COVID-19 pandemic has led to an increase in violence against women worldwide in recent years. Yeah, we know that. We've heard that. It's been massive in Australia as well, right? I know that even Camilla Parker Bowles.
That's right, yes. The Queen Consort.
Queen Consort.
Oh,
yes, even talks about, was doing this whole, there's a pandemic against violence against women. There's a pandemic.
Domestic violence. And so she's spearheading that campaign. Yeah. Well, that's one of the Queen Consort's campaigns.
And we told another story where she had like an event, invited all these women that were part of NGOs and organizations supporting that kind of cause.
Okay.
That was where the Lady Hussey story happened.
Oh, is this about a brooch?
No, it's nothing to do with a brooch. It was Lady. It was. We did it on. We've already talked about this. We did the story. It was quite funny. Where basically, the woman, I can't remember her name because I couldn't remember to pronounce her name, but she was basically British African.
Oh, I know. This is the one where she says. Is this the one where she says, "But where are you really from?"
Yeah. Basically, but it was just we read the transcripts, and obviously. Yeah, we read the transcripts and it was so funny. I've had this exact same conversation myself with people. But I felt so bad for the woman because it puts the onus on the black person to have to keep the cool, not make a scene, consider how they handle it diplomatically without seeming like they've got a chip on the shoulder.
Diplomacy is the word, and I think I haven't read the transcripts but from what I understand, the woman who was asked, "Where are you really from?" She kept her cool, she kept her calm, and she dealt with it in a very gracious manner. Yeah,
but it was just kind of funny, not even funny, I guess funny from an outsider who's experienced it. And
how many times have you been asked? How many times have I been asked, "Where are you really from?"
Yeah, but these days, to be fair, when I've been asked it, people accept my answer. But that was the thing in this, that she wasn't accepting her answer. Yeah. That was the thing. Wasn't accepting what she'd already told her. So that was the stickler. But anyway, we digress. So we know that we talk about human rights in these ways, but the reality is there are individual women who are under that threat every day of violence. So we've got these grim statistics, but Ms. Clark, who wrote the article, is hopeful that Australia's recent progress towards greater women's representation in politics will bode well for more inclusive policies. And this is why inclusion in decision-making roles is so important. Already the government has made changes to paid parental leave and has launched a 10-year strategy on ending violence against women. So this must be in Australia. There's been some really significant gains, particularly in Australia. If we look at women in leadership and women in power, she said, we are already starting to see positives with the National Task Force for a Strategy on Gender Equality and the Economic Task Force for Women that's been established. And then it goes on to some surprises, which I was surprised. Well, not surprised.
What you were surprised about, Tracy?
I'm not surprised, but I just wasn't aware. It wasn't at the forefront of my awareness.
What was brought onto your radar?
That Dr. Delunty was surprised to see continued discrimination against women in the media and digital spaces. And then it talks about the Jeremy Clarkson, how apparently in December he gone again at Meghan Markle in the Sun, in a column in the Sun.
Jeremy Clarkson did make a vile comment about Meghan Markle, if that's still the surname. Yes, and he made a comment which is based around a scene in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he did, right? And then so it's talking about media and attacking women, basically. Yeah. She's an example. That's an example. The other examples were the Finnish Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, who faced sexist questioning at a press conference. Oh, yes, I remember seeing that. She was visiting New Zealand and she had Jacinta and they were both there. It was on the news. I can't remember what the question was, but the media asked a question. And it's like, if they were two men, you wouldn't have asked that question. It was nothing to do with the jobs or the role or what they were there for. It was about their gender. It's quite funny.
And who was asking the question?
It's a journalist.
Right.
Question, yeah. And Jacinta said, I'm just wondering if we were two men standing here, if you'd have asked that question. It's quite...
Oh, is that how she responded? Oh,
yeah. I love her as well. And then I don't know who it is, sorry, because I've been skipping parts of the article. It's quite a long story. Was shocked by the backlash against Brittany Higgins and other women who speak out. She says how Brittany Higgins was treated kind of served as a warning to women. Don't speak out, don't say anything, because this will be the result. Yeah, we said that.
That's something that we touched on last week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, this was it. Going back to the story about Jacinta meeting with the Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin. It says what they were asked was, oh, have you met because you're both women leaders? That was what the journalist asked. Are you meeting because you're both women? You're both women.
Are you meeting because you're both?
Oh, no. This was the question. Sorry, I misquoted. Sorry. Okay, the question was, are you women because you're both of similar age? You're both women of a similar age. Is that why you're meeting? That was the question.
Are you meeting because you're women of both a similar age? Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of the question.
Wow.
How many male politicians stand up there and are a similar age?
And this was a question from a journalist. So
at a press conference.
Okay. Of all the questions that you could ask, of all the questions, that's the one that they came up with.
Yeah, I just thought, really? And that's what she said. She said, would you have asked that question if we were two men standing here similar?
That's a great response.
Because the prime ministers of heads of state, like all heads of state, meet each other. Stupid question.
Because actually, I mean, I say it's a great response, but how else would you be able to answer that question?
Well, she kind of carried on answering, we met because we're heads of state. It's like, yeah, that's how it was. Yeah. I mean, she answered it really. I might have gone, really? Are you asking me that question?
Exactly. It's like, that's the only real response. I would probably, if somebody asked, if I was in that position and somebody asked me that, I'd be thinking, what do you know what would, like, not that this is a question. What if somebody said, like me and you, we're heads of state, me and you, we're meeting. And they go, are you meeting because you're both women of colour? Exactly. I'd be thinking, well, what? I'd have that same response. Like, what other? Is there another question? Like, is that the best you could come up with? It's like, which other question? What other response is there but to call that journalist out?
Whoever asked that question, he's never living that down.
So,
I'm assuming it was a man. I think it was. But anyway, to end this, it says, on a more positive note, Dr. Delunty was pleased by the progresses in feminist foreign policy. In the foreign policy space, that's where 2022 has been good, she said. There's been much more marked increase in feminist foreign policies in different countries. And while Miss Clark was saddened by the plight of many women around the world, she was struck by the strength and defiance of young people. There was a greater proliferation of young, strident, and outspoken women who are simply saying, enough is enough. So while it's been a shocking one on the one hand, I think 2022 is really a year of drawing a line. She said for the next year, it would be important to keep making sure these voices are heard. I sit in Australia saddened by what is happening to young women in Iran, Afghanistan, Ukraine, and around the globe, Ms. Clark said. So what can we do about it? We can shine a light on it. We can share the stories. We can say enough is enough. And hopefully someone will listen.
And that's what we're doing here. You know, we're shining a light, we're sharing stories, because as we all know, things don't change overnight. It's always going to be a gradual process, but as long as we're moving and we're traveling on this journey in the right direction, sometimes there will be cases whereby, and in some regions, there will be cases whereby it's 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. But as long as we're moving in the right direction, in a positive direction, that's where we can start.
Yeah. I just, it's nice, it's easy. We're just lucky where we are, and we literally are lucky because of where we were born. This is our lives. The choice. I have such empathy for refugees, because I want to say, to leave your home country. I mean, I've left my home country, you've left your home country. Even if you want to, it's still not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, even if it's your choice. But a lot of people would rather be in their home country. But can't be there.
Yeah, because that's where their heart is, but they're not able to be there. That's right. That's right. I mean, it's a lot of, I suppose it's kind of a little bit like, I know about with my parents, they came from different countries to live in England, and it may not, for my mum it wasn't her choice, and for my dad it was a choice, but it wasn't kind of a deliberate choice. And for a lot of Indian parents, they left their homes in India to create more opportunities, not only for themselves, but to create a new future for the next generation, which is us. And I know that, like, going, but also retain, but what's really important is also retaining that culture. And I know it's funny how, Tracy, how you said about, we're very lucky. I know that one of the last trips I had to India, I was actually with an ex-boyfriend, and it was the first time that he'd been to India, and he's of non-Indian heritage. And so he found that, he was embracing the culture in India. He was embracing everything, including smells. And I remember
what smells?
I remember on our taxi, it was like a mixture of spices, of sun, and of cowpat, basically.
Okay.
That's India. But we were basically in a taxi back to the airport, and we were driving past, and a scene that we come across many times of people on the roadside, making their lives. And my ex-boyfriend at the time, I remember he turned around to me, it's a long time ago, and he turned around to me and he said to me, Bhavna, he said, if your father had never moved to England and you were born here, what kind of life do you think you would have had? And so that's what so when you just said now about we're very lucky to have been born in this in the countries that we have and been given those opportunities. It does remind me that it wasn't so long ago, a different throw of a dice. I maybe could have been born in India. I could have been born in Rajasthan and raised there. So it's different. We basically, we take our opportunities, and we basically, we live the life of the hand that was dealt to us.
No. So that was 2022.
Yes, that was 2022. And so and it's a great to kind of end on in terms of shining that light on the fact that, various, it's a reminder that, we have to continue sharing these stories, we have to continue talking about these issues, making sure that they're kept on the radar.
Exactly.
So and talking about stories on the radar, so a story from the Daily Mail in Australia from this week is the headline reads, M&M's launches woke female-only special edition candy featuring lesbian green and brown chocolates, as well as new plus-size purple sweet who represents body positivity.
I thought we already had brown M&Ms.
I don't eat M&Ms.
I don't particularly eat. I never thought we already had green ones.
I'm definitely sure there's a green, and I'm pretty sure there's a brown too.
For me, it was the purple that was new.
Purple is a new one, but I thought they already had green ones, but this article is now saying about this special edition, which are labeling as female only. But they've also labeled the green as lesbian in the marketing campaign. So the actual picture, what it basically shows, it says M&M is launching woke all-female packs to celebrate female empowerment and attempt to shake things up in a continued shift towards progressive branding. So they're basically branding the green M&M as a lesbian.
Oh, okay, get it, yeah.
And I think with M&M,
so what's the brown M&M? A brown person? Like what? They're all colourful. I don't know
let's have a look what it says. So Mars, M&M's parent company, debuted with feminist candy wrappers earlier this week, exclusively featuring the company's 3 female mascots, green, brown, and the newly introduced purple. The all-female package upside down to show how powerful women have flipped the status quo. So that's another branding technique. Will be the first time the brown and green M&Ms have been featured together since a viral tweet from 2015 sparked rumors they were a lesbian couple. Okay, so as yet we don't know whether or not what the brown M&M refers to, but we do know that the green M&M is now lesbian.
Right.
So if they're paired together and they're holding hands, then it's probably a biracial M&M's relationship. Basically what we have there. The tweet contained a picture of the 2 characters holding hands on a beach, posted just 2 days after the Supreme Court effectively legalized gay marriage. That was in 2015. Each of these limited run packages will only include the female coded green, brown, and purple versions of the miniature candies. So that's what it. So in other words, the all female M&M packet of sweets will consist of just green, just brown, and just purple. Cat amongst the pigeons here. You could actually then come at it and say, well, what about the yellow? You're excluding the yellow. You're excluding the blue.
I just think it's funny. I don't know if they've got characters. I think they're all guys anyway. I just find this interesting. So they must have already had the brown and the green. I think they did. It's just a rebranding of how they...
Branding, yes. And in the actual picture, they've got the brown as having very long eyelashes. So you can interpret that as maybe the brown could be even trans.
Well, it's not saying what it is. Could be anything.
Exactly. They're not saying what the brown is, but they're saying that the green is a lesbian M&M, and the purple, which is a slightly, it's a sickle shaped almost, or a oval shaped, egg shaped.
Right.
So that is promoting body imaging.
Okay, interesting. So, right.
That's the difference in the branding. So, and the green M&M, it's definitely got the animation is quite heavily animated with eyelashes, full of lips. Yeah, so definitely a more of a feminine take.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? I'm wondering if this is going to increase sales of M&Ms. I don't know. Are you going to go out and buy some M&Ms now?
I wasn't really keen on M&Ms before, but this isn't going to encourage me to buy M&Ms. I think what would be great is if they had flavors. So if they had a different flavor for the purple, and it was be egg shaped, I'd be more inclined to be curious about the flavor. So maybe I think maybe as a branding, maybe they should have done more take rather than on the animation of the packet. Maybe they should have actually homed in on different flavors.
Maybe, but it's just a sugar shell and chocolate around chocolate, isn't it?
That's why it's not going to change my my take on if I'm going to be encouraged to go into a shop.
Oh, actually, no, there was flavors in that. I think it said in that article. Like one's peanut butter. I think there is flavors. Keep reading. Find the flavors.
Okay.
Yeah, there's flavors.
Let's have a look. Okay. Mars has shifted the M&M's brand in recent years multiple times in attempts to appear more progressive, with a new CEO, Paul Wayrack, looking to continue the trend. They debuted Purple, the first ever female peanut M&M spokes candy, who has been designed to represent acceptance and inclusivity, and it's quirky, confident, and authentic. So each M&M has got their own personality.
Right.
So, okay.
And now I feel like there should be an animated TV series for these.
Yeah, guys. I didn't know this. I didn't know that each M&M color had its own personality. So that's my naivety playing out here. I had no idea about this. Apparently they do. The purple one has been introduced as quirky, confident, and authentic. More than 10 million fans voted to add the color to the confectionery's current rainbow in May, beating aqua and pink. Purple's arrival was announced with "I'm Just Gonna Be Me," a new promotional song and music video, which launched on Tuesday. So there we go. There we have it. I haven't seen this.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's rare muzz brown. So the brown M&M is a muzz. It's rare muzz brown, and I get to spend time together without some colourful characters barging in. A comment by Muzz Green.
Okay.
So yeah, I do feel like, yes, there is maybe they should have a Saturday morning children's show, maybe, but then that would be promoting sugar products, which probably isn't.
No, probably not a good idea.
So yeah, I can't remember the last time this has come up where a sugar confectionery product has been animated into different characters. It's like Toy Story on sugar steroids.
I guess that would be the problem with doing that, promoting the sugar products. But you just highlight something that we know. Two things. One is Americans call it candy, the Brits call it sweets, and Aussies call it lollies.
Lollies, yeah.
But in the UK, a lolly is literally a lollipop.
That's right.
That's only refers to a lollipop. Although if anything else is a sweet. It's interesting. Yes. Interesting with different names. And then the whole woke, I did not really know what that meant.
So interestingly enough, I had to read the headline twice, because again, I'm going to play on my naivety. I obviously haven't been listening to a lot of articles out there and which mention the word woke, because the headline reads M&M's launches woke female only special edition candy. So I didn't necessarily know about what the connotation woke meant or what it referred to or its definition.
No, me neither. Other than the meaning that's been around forever. One of the meanings, which is obviously not what it means here, is I woke. I woke up.
Woke is, waking up to.
Waking up. Yeah. Oh, maybe that's where it's relating.
Well, I actually did a quick Google search on what the definition of woke is. Obviously, Dr. Google knows everything. And here, woke is defined as an adjective derived from African American vernacular English, meaning, in speech marks, alert to racial prejudice and discrimination.
That's interesting. I don't know how to call it woke. If it says alert to prejudice and discrimination, then it makes sense for that title to be in this story. But it's saying alert to racial prejudice, discrimination. And there's, besides the brown M&M that's always been around, it's not really a focus on the race here. It's a focus on body positivity and LGBTQI. Well,
yeah, maybe they're homing in on the discrimination part.
Yeah. So I was just wondering how woke would use in a sentence. Does it give you an example how woke's using a sentence?
It doesn't, no. It doesn't know. The meaning of woke is aware of and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
are you being woke? It's an adjective.
All right, yeah. And I guess, is it a good word or a bad word? Because I'm sure I've heard it in context where it's kind of like a put down. I don't know. I can't think of an example.
If you're using it to describe a situation where you've contributed to the promotion of racial also equality, then you may be described as being woke. I was being woke.
Yeah.
And because you're promoting that. So in that context, can be used quite positively.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
right. Oh.
Yeah, it got me thinking actually when I read it, when I read that, and then I thought, okay, about, and we're discussing the meaning of the word woke. I remember there was another article that came up just last week, was about words.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of each year, I think the Oxford Dictionary picks out a number of words, or a very short list of words which they define as words of the year. And one of the words of the year that was picked out was the word woman, being one of the words of 2022.
Oh, cool.
So and they base it around searches that have been the number of searches that have been conducted. I remember reading around the word woman had been put in, especially around the time of the Queen's Jubilee and also the death of the Queen. And the word woman was coming up a lot in searches.
That's interesting.
That's the reason why they've actually selected the word.
Oh, interesting. It's word of the year, eh? Have we got time to do a what would you do? Because I'm just looking at the time.
Squeeze that in.
Squeeze it in.
Okay. Well, it would all depend on what question you have for me, Tracy.
All right. So in what would you do? What would you do? That's my little jingle. It's terrible. But anyway. So this is highlighting bias discrimination against women in the workplace. And we talked about women's rights. So I thought we may as well go with this example. So it's a workplace scenario. You're in a conversation with co-workers and someone without children asks a woman with children, how do you manage work and raising your kids? You must be overwhelmed. And you're not the person asking, you're just participating in this conversation. What would you do?
Right. Okay. So this is a scenario where a childless woman is asking a mother who is working.
It doesn't say childless woman. It says someone without children. So it could be a man or a woman.
Okay. Someone without children. Someone like myself. I'm a woman who doesn't have any children. It would be basically myself asking somebody in the workplace who has a child or many children, how do you do it? You must feel overwhelmed. Well, there's an assumption there that a person with children is feeling overwhelmed, but at the same time, you could also take it from the perspective that it could be a form of a compliment, whereby it's a case of from the perspective of someone who is working, who doesn't have children, and is potentially and probably finding work overwhelming anyway, without the responsibility of looking after a child or children. And so simply sharing that comment, which is how do you do it? It's almost it can be said in awe, because I know that I've been in situations where I haven't said it in that way, where how do you do it? You must be very overwhelmed. But I haven't said that, but I have communicated to I have shared with my colleagues at work who have children, who are in the same type of role as me, who have the same pressures as me as work, but also have 3 or 4 children that they're also looking after and homeschooling. So I've asked them. Well, I haven't asked one because, but I've actually shared with them that, I'm in awe of you. I'm in absolute awe of you, because I know what the pressures are like in terms of just work. And so to imagine, which is all I can do because I'm not a mother, to imagine having a responsibility of 1, 2, 3, or 4 or plus other bodies, other children that I also have to look after, on top of what responsibilities I have. For me, I'm in all of that. And so in that situation, what would I do? Or I wouldn't necessarily, if I was a bystander and I heard that comment, I suppose in my bias, I wouldn't necessarily, first of all, see it as a negative question. I suppose in my own perspective, I'd see it as the person asking it as probably coming from a position of great awe for his mother who's working, and taking on those extra challenges. But also I can see how it would be taken out of context. But on the surface, I know that because I've made comments, but I've made compliments. I've passed a compliment to colleagues in the workplace who have the same responsibilities as me. And are also experiencing success. But I don't have the addition of the responsibility of a child or having children, and they do. So for me, I'm in complete awe of them.
Yeah, and I mean, everything is context dependent, right? So you're right, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I have commented similarly, but in the context of, because I've been a people manager and I was actually, had people in my team that had to have that scenario working, because the work and stress increased during COVID in the industry I worked in, because we were providing a service essentially, and we needed to maintain that for patient safety, and well-being. So there was a lot of stress for everyone, and people were in lockdowns, kids at home, and so there was that happening. So yes, just in the two contexts I would comment on that, it would be checking on them. How are they doing? How are you doing? Because I know the situation at home, and knowing they're doing the best they can and not having high expectations of what they can do, like they can pay the same amount of attention and time, and just going with whatever they told me. So that would be in the context I would have that conversation or say something maybe like that. But I probably wouldn't say you must be overwhelmed. And let's look at this from another side.
I mean, in that, if I was to say, or if I was to hear, oh, you must be overwhelmed, I think I'd be thinking also, would you also apply that to a female and a male? So I know that, because I know that when I've played, and I'm very aware of this, when I've paid compliments to my colleagues who are parents, as well as being successful in the workload that we both have, I've made comments to both mothers and fathers. So in that sense, I'm hoping I'm not discriminating in that sense. It's, for me, it comes from a place where I'm in complete awe that you're actually holding down this a very successful career, as well as having the additional responsibility of bringing up children. So
and I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think that's the question to ask yourself before the words come out your mouth. If he was a guy, children, but would I be thinking and saying the same thing to him? And if the answer is yes, then that's okay. If the answer is no, then you're like, then you need to think about what your assumptions are. However, I'm playing out the scenario already, and I'm already assuming, and this is the other way, but a bias, still an absolute bias on my part, that I wouldn't ask a guy, because I'm assuming his wife's taking the work, even though she's working. Let's just assume I'm with a guy, potentially, who's married with kids, and this is a scenario, and I know they both work. I'm assuming that the woman's taking the biggest load. That's my bias. And that bias comes from having friends that actually do that, I'm afraid.
Right, I see. I suppose, I suppose in a way, and we've been talking in this session about how we've been moving forward, and I know that I'm not going to mention any names, but one of my good friends, she's expecting a baby in the coming weeks actually, and yes, she's going to be taking maternity leave, but she's going to be going back to work, and it's actually my friend's husband who's going to be taking time a number
That's
of
great.
years.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I suppose I'm already in an environment, I'm surrounding myself with, I've already somehow surrounded myself around less of that stereotype.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was also working in the industries that I have. In the last industry I was working in, there was again there was a lot of paternity leave being taken. And so I suppose I'm just maybe it's because of what I've been exposed to.
Well, that's the thing. It's like your experience. It's still a bias. Like on my part, having that in my head, that's a bias, because I would know. I don't personally know, but I would know and have seen where it's the father that's taking on that responsibility sometimes, or taking the longest parental leave, say. Yeah. I've seen it. I'm not saying I've never seen or heard of that, but my most common experience is the other. But anyway, what it's saying is, so it's good to highlight bias, because we all have it. And it's saying the problem with this question, when the question was, how do you manage work and raising your kids? You must be overwhelmed. The question reinforces an often unconscious belief that dedicated mothers can't also be dedicated employees. Because if you're using "you must be overwhelmed" suggests they can't cope. When you're overwhelmed, it's not a positive place to be in, is it? It's not a functional. It's not a.
It could also be. I mean, it's a word which also means it's quite challenging. You're feeling overwhelmed. It's too much to take on.
Exactly.
And so there is because I think also the question is also dealing that there's two responsibilities. There's work responsibilities and the dedication towards that, and also the dedication towards raising children and looking after children. And you can do both, as society has illustrated. So
but that's the thing, and this is what's funny. I'll come back. Let me just read this though. It says it reinforces the unconscious belief that dedicated mothers can't also be dedicated employees. It assumes that the woman is overwhelmed, which can feel like a judgment on her ability to handle her workload, and may lead to her getting passed over for opportunities if this is the bias held in the collective in the workplace. If this happens a lot, it can make women feel unsupported as working parents, which can make them more likely to leave the company. So, and it says many people, and it gives some suggestions how you can respond. It says there are a few ways you can respond based on what feels right. So like everything's context dependent, right? You can point out that feeling overwhelmed is something that everyone experiences from time to time. And I was actually going to say that some people have sick partners, some women have sick husbands, some men have sick wives, or parents that they have to have a responsibility towards. Some people are caregivers for other parts of their family, or are more involved, or even extended family members, maybe not immediate family members. So everyone at some point, even if you're a single person, has times when they feel overwhelmed.
That's right. You don't necessarily need to have extra responsibilities aside from work to feel overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Nobody goes through, there isn't one individual on this planet that goes through life and doesn't feel overwhelmed.
At some point, right? So that's one of the points you can make. And it's not just working mothers, you have a lot to manage. I imagine all working parents feel overwhelmed sometimes. And if your colleague doesn't seem overwhelmed to you at all, you can say that too. And saying you don't seem overwhelmed, you seem to be managing it all in your stride. So that's more of a compliment.
That's where that sentence of "you must be overwhelmed," where you can turn that narrative and come from a place of compliment.
And it says many people fall into the trap of believing that women can't be fully committed to both work and family, and that fuels skepticism about women's abilities. And fathers are often exempt from these assumptions. So that's really talking about maternal bias, which is a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, an interesting one.
It's an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Very
think
interesting.
if I'm also trying to think of a perspective of, okay, what would I do if I was receiving that comment? So I think I'd probably be inclined to see the compliment in the actual statement, but also if I didn't see the compliment in the first instance, I'd probably feel like I need to not prove, but kind of just show. I think I'd be inclined to show that I've got it down packed.
Yeah. The only reason you feel the need to do that is because you feel like it's a judgment.
Yeah.
So and actually, if I didn't do that, what you just did, I didn't put myself in the shoes of the receiver there, and now I did, and now I have. I feel judged, like the hinting that I can't handle it, and I'm also feeling like, well, how many women do this all the time? Like, why is this even a comment to me?
That's right.
Like,
exactly.
So many mothers. Nearly every woman in this office is a mother, maybe. I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yes.
That these are things I'm thinking.
That would kind of then that's why then my behavior would be like, well, I'd just show it. I just basically I just basically show that, yeah, look, I can do this. I can handle this.
But you shouldn't have to, because you shouldn't have to.
That's right. You shouldn't have to.
So interesting when you step into the different shoes, hey, how you can see the different perspectives. So that was it. That was our what would you could do. I really like that one. So thank you for your perspective and insights there.
Well, I could share that.
It's basically, that question is not a compliment. If you want to compliment someone, that one is not a compliment.
It's the overwhelming thing, aspect of that, which negates it as a compliment. So if you take out that part about overwhelm,
maybe, I don't know. I'm still, now I've been able to sit in the shoes, or attempted to sit in the shoes, I'd still be a bit like, what was that comment coming from? Unless, like, again, it's context dependent. If I've been sat there complaining, having it offloading about my kids in the week and they're not having enough sleep, if I'd have been like offloading like that, and then there was a comment, the comment was like, oh, you're doing amazing, you're managing all this amazingly or something, that's a compliment. But if it's, how are you doing it?
I suppose that's it. I suppose it's about the tone that you use. It's about that word overwhelm. So, like, for example, like I'm a single female who has no dependents, and I have a career which requires me to work hard, sometimes work extra hours, and it requires my full commitment. And now I know that my counterparts are in that exact same position as me. The difference is that they have the additional responsibility of caring for a dependent or a number of dependents, also which requires their focus, which requires their attention, which I don't have. And so for me, because I don't have that, I appreciate that, and that's where that comment comes from. And I suppose it's a compliment if you use it, if you're being mindful of the tone that you use, and also using the word overwhelm in the right context.
Yeah. But you can also, well, there's a couple of things as a coach I would give as additional advice in this situation. And the first thing would be not to assume what somebody's feeling, because they say you must be overwhelmed. So you might be right, but just who knows, they know. So you can ask them, how are they feeling? How do you feel managing that? How is it working for you? And then they'll tell you if they're feeling overwhelmed, or they might not, depends how well they know you.
And you can apply that to anybody in a workplace. They don't need to be a mother. Like, you can reply that, like, I could be the recipient of that type of comment. Is that, oh, you might feel overwhelmed. So
yeah. So you can just ask rather than assume. But also, if the symptomatic of being overwhelmed, like you're seeing signs and symptoms, you can still ask and use the word. You can say, You seem overwhelmed. Is that what's going on for you? And, you know, this happened. You seem a bit overwhelmed. So instead of saying you must be overwhelmed, it's still a possibility that there's something else, and that you're opening up the space for them to share how they interpret how they're feeling, not what you interpret how they're feeling.
Well, it's in communication where you say you must be, you're putting words into somebody else's mouth in a way. And so I suppose, and you know, that communication error can be applied in any context.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. For any context, I'm just giving that advice as a way you can communicate with someone about how they're feeling without telling them how they're feeling. Yeah. That was it. I think it's a really interesting topic, hey? We had a lot of discussion there.
Yeah, some gritty items that will come up there.
Thank you, Bhavna, as always. Pleasure chatting to you.
Thanks for making time and creating this space to share.
You're creating the space with me, doll.
Great to be part of it.
Oh, cool. Anyway, I'm going to see you on Monday for the movies, right?
Yeah, that's right. Which film is it?
Tar.
Is this the one which Kate Blanchett won a Golden Globe for?
I believe so.
Open up.
Yeah, be cool. All right, hon, let's go. Wrapping it up.
I'll see you Monday.
See you Monday.
Get the popcorn ready.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.